MLS Aces Podcast, episode 278. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and Jason, Jason Vivang's here with me. And Jason, another season has come and gone, and, the Columbus Crew are at it again, winning MLS Cup, their second MLS Cup, their third trophy in 4 years. I mean, how do you feel about the season just being over at this point?
Like I was just saying, it's kind of crazy. It's almost like it doesn't feel like it's over, but it's over. But
Yeah.
It's also, I feel like the off season for MLS is just so chaotic a little bit. I've already seen a ton of tweets and a ton of different, like lists of free agents, and it's just like it almost feels like we're at this point where the league is so deep at this, like in this scenario where like all of these like very good MLS players are just there, and it's like who will take them and who wants them. Like it's going to be
100%.
I mean, you have Kellen Acosta as a free agent.
Look,
Miles Robinson, like
it's happening. We're currently in it, and we've been currently in it. But like when free agency and stuff like that was created not too long ago in MLS's history, it was only a small percentage of players that actually fit the qualifications of being a free agent. And now so many skilled players at younger ages are free agents, and it completely explodes the offseason into more craziness, to your point, than we've ever seen.
I think if they're able to do a little bit of raising caps and things like that in MLS, like obviously that's a higher level conversation, but
yes, and we'll get to it.
I just think like we're at the point where it's totally like it won't hurt. It will be incredible. Yeah. Like you're going to start seeing teams that are really good and deep because there is the talent pool at this point.
As per Don Garber's State of the Union address before MLS Cup last weekend, we know that there will be no fourth designated player heading into 2024, unfortunately. But he did say that I think sometime this week or next week, we should be getting some news about, how did he word it? It was ways that clubs can get or attain or transfer players, or in some
they're
sense.
Just gonna create some like another allocation money or something. It's gonna be like a new acronym that we're all gonna have to try and figure out what it means.
Bring back TAM. Bring it back. No, I mean, look, I would assume hopefully it means some kind of maybe it means a raise to the salary cap. I don't know, but I think there was a lot of interesting points to his press conference. It was something in the past that I never paid attention to, but if you want to know what's going on in the league, you probably should listen, or at least read some of the great reporting around it. But it was that, and it was also I think he openly talked about the balance of competition and scheduling and how that was difficult on clubs this year and how they're going to try to fix that next year. So look, there's a lot of positive things coming, and to that point, we have an entire off season to talk about it, and we will talk about all the news as it breaks, including tonight's or last night, if you're watching this day of drop, CONCACAF Champions Cup draw. All the MLS teams learned their fate there. Players retiring, players signing, trades, legends leaving clubs. It's crazy.
Rumors.
What's going on. But we're gonna get to that starting next week. This week is all about MLS Cup. It's all about celebrating.
This week we're pretending the season isn't over. We're talking about actual games still.
We have one more episode of our season being not over before 2024 is here. And I think we should celebrate the Columbus Crew, because that is one thing that I will say of Major League Soccer. And again, back to your point, Jason, of the hecticness and craziness of the MLS offseason, is the champions don't really get that much time to celebrate, because in 48 hours after they're raising the cup, they're also cutting players and deciding whose roster decisions and that they want to exercise and not exercise. So I think
you're at the parade and it's like, oh, I'm not even on the team anymore.
Exactly. In less than 10 hours, you're going to find out if you're on the team next year.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately some players have to learn that, but I think we should give this final episode, final celebration, congratulations to Columbus. And also, look, I have some positive words I want to say about LAFC too in all of this. So, I mean, look, let's just dive into it. MLS Cup 2023. Columbus Crew took down LAFC at home 2-1. It was maybe a controversial call, then maybe one of the best goals I've ever seen, team goals I've ever seen, then maybe one of the best individual kind of just work hard effort goals I've ever seen, right? Like, it was a lot of great moments in this game that, we covered a lot in our preview last week, and I think a lot of it happened and a lot of it didn't happen. And credit to the Columbus Crew for proving you right, Jason, and having you be our winner between you and me and picking games for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I said I'm going to roll with them because I've been rolling with them essentially the whole way.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we just want to dive right in, like, I think the way, I don't know, just to like kind of give myself some credit, like the way, and you as well, like the way we've talked about their attack was totally on
What they do.
display in this game,
Yeah.
right? Like we split up, in our preview by position group essentially, but we kind of prefaced it by saying that's not how the game is played, but it's like a good way to look at it. And we saw exactly the thing we were saying is like, yeah, this midfield loves kind of interchanging runs, interplaying with the attacking for the Crew. Anyone is making those, late runs in, early runs to get, a through ball down. And you just saw that constantly, like just constantly.
Yeah.
And they just peppered LAFC. You go.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think to continue that point of what we did, give ourselves credit and give you, I'm gonna give you most of the credit here of how Wilfred Nancy was playing his game. And I mean, you said it, of Nancy wasn't gonna back down. He was gonna play his style. He wants his guys with the ball at their feet, and he was going to allow LAFC to play their style of kind of counter attacking and trying to catch Columbus on the break. And Columbus didn't allow that. They didn't make the silly mistakes that we saw even in the Eastern Conference final that they made against Cincinnati to allow goals. It was for the most part an error-free game. And I would say the one major mistake and error that we saw is how Dennis Bawanga scored his goal.
I mean, it's a guy who scored almost 40 goals or whatever.
I mean, look, I'm saying more like, right, it was a very, very rare misplayed pass from Darlington Nagbe that's just so happened to happen when LAFC had numbers pressing up the field, and that created drama, that created chaos. Dennis Bawanga there to clean it up, and like, that's literally how the only goal happened, was the one mistake from Darlington Nagbe, who was pretty shot at that point of the game. So I think it's a credit to Nancy, and it's a credit to this team that they played their style and they imposed that and didn't allow LAFC to do what they wanted to do until I think it was probably too little too late for Cherundolo and LAFC to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, I think where you're at with the managers is a good point, because we kind of prefaced it by like, Wilfred Nancy, he's got the way he wants to do it, right? He's going to go in there. He's going to have his guys ready for the opponent, but they're not necessarily drastically changing how they play based on who they're playing, I would say. And I think you kind of saw that with the attack being very similar to how it's always been. The subs similar, even up, 2-0. I can't remember if Ramirez and Gressel came on at 2-0 or 2-1. But regardless, like the subs while leading were still the same as when they're down. And I think that's just like a testament to him as a coach and how much belief he has in his players and his team, and how well he's able to give players roles within the team to make everyone succeed. And like conversely, like Cherundolo, like we were saying, they're a little bit more adaptable. They kind of let opposing teams in attack just kind of, like we saw against Seattle, Houston had 80%, 70% possession.
Yeah, LAFC Columbus will be like, here's the ball, we're gonna let our runners do their thing, and the one team that is gonna make you pay is Columbus.
But the thing is too, like Columbus had 62% possession, right? And this was kind of how we saw it going, right? They're going to let Columbus play with the ball, and then they're going to pounce on those mistakes. And I think we texted about it a little bit during the game, was like Columbus was so ready for any counterattacking chances. And Columbus plays their, wing backs pretty high up the field a lot of the
Mhm.
time. But it didn't matter because there was always someone there. If they lost possession in the final or third, if they misplaced a pass, I mean, outside of the one scenario where Buanga scored, like there was always a Columbus player ready to win the ball back. There were moments in that game where it felt like every time they lost the ball, they got it back within 10 seconds. And then it
And
was
that
just them back on attack.
that's I think that's the point that it's like I don't want to make it sound like LAFC was bad and that's why Columbus won. This is what Columbus tactically does to swarm their opponents and to kind of suffocate them a little bit. Because when LAFC had the ball at their feet and they're like, okay, we're going to go play in transition, they couldn't string together a pass to
Right.
save their fucking lives. I mean, let's be real. It was heavy touches. It was, losing the ball immediately. It was being immediately met by a defender for a second ball or for a third ball even. Like the amount of times that I saw even Dennis Bouanga, Christian Oliveira, Kellen Acosta, Timothy Tillman, whoever it was, just take a really bad, uncharacteristic touch was awful, which led to for a majority of this game, and this is the thing to me is the reason why Columbus won and LAFC lost was LAFC was chasing. They were chasing the
Mhm.
ball. They were chasing Columbus players. When Ryan Hollingshead and Ilie Sanchez specifically are in a full-on sprint backwards towards their goal because they're trying to keep up with Yoya Boa, they're trying to keep up with Cucho and Rossi and Mo Farsi and whoever you want to talk about. I mean, you're not going to win a game if you can't keep up with the players
Right.
running past you because you can't control and maintain possession for more than 2 or 3 passes, you're not going to win, and that's exactly what happened. So credit to Columbus for I think more than just implementing their style, I think suffocating LAFC, especially in the first half with their style of play.
Yeah, I mean Columbus, like an incredible performance, right? Like one of those performances that's going to go down as like this was dominant. And LAFC is an incredible team, right? Like we've been
100%.
talking about them all year long, the quality they have in and out of their lineup, all the way, from the first player on the team sheet to the last. There's so much quality there, and it just Columbus went into that game, knew exactly what they wanted, and then was able to really play their game and make LAFC, like you're saying, chase and chase and chase, and then that makes them more tired. Then they start making mistakes. Then you start making them pay. And I think for Columbus, like it's almost like you have to, like there's almost no way not to praise them, right? Because like the performance they had was almost shocking in terms of how good it was. Like I picked them to win. I didn't think it was going to be in a 2-1 win. It felt a lot easier than the scoreline shows.
I would just challenge that and say I think I expected this type of, I would say, at least offensive production, offensive game from Columbus. So
But
that's
you
not
didn't expect LAFC to struggle
so.
so drastically into
Yeah,
their transitions
that
and
that's the point that I'm
into their
saying is
counters.
you said it's shocking that Columbus put together the performance they did. I think it's less shocking that Columbus was as good as they were, and I think
Mhm.
it's more shocking that LAFC honestly were as just, and I'm going to make sure I hammer home the point, uncharacteristically bad as they
Right.
were, because
Yeah.
this is a very good team with a lot of good players. This was a very rare bad performance, and I know some people are attesting that to LAFC played the most games of any MLS team ever in a calendar year.
Right.
Maybe that has something to play with it. Maybe this team is tired. I don't know. But at the end of the day, in MLS Cup, they were bad. A lot of these players were very bad. But
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I think that was sort of what I meant too, is like that Columbus played the way we thought they were going to play, but I think succeeded in a lot and like not letting LAFC play the way they wanted to play, or letting them really adapt to the play style that Columbus was kind of creating.
For sure. And I think a lot of what we saw, and I'm going to say, especially in the first half, because that's when Columbus's 2 goals came, was what we saw and what we expected of a Columbus Crew team, especially, at this point of the year, or I guess at that point of the year, season's over. I don't know, whatever. But, even the penalty call, right, on Diego Palacios, that was created because of Columbus just pressuring LAFC in their back line constantly. Like, it was like, we're going to just keep having players near the ball around the box. We're going to have multiple players near the ball around the box. We're going to keep applying pressure to this LAFC defense. And eventually you keep applying pressure, mistakes are going to happen. And that was a mistake. I'm not completely sold that was a true, like 100% a penalty, but it was called a penalty on the field.
You want to debate this again?
I'm not, the season's over. I'm not debating fucking VAR PK calls anymore. But at the end of the day, it was called on the field. It went to video review. There wasn't any clear and obvious. It wasn't a handball. His hand was out, whatever. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I mean, look, Cucho Hernandez has been the star. He put away the PK to send his team up 1-0. And I mean, I just think that entire action, those entire plays that led up to the PK goal was exactly the Columbus Crew style that we want to talk about, right? I don't know if you have anything you want to say about the PK goal, or if you want to talk about the Yayaboa goal, because I mean, that was
incredible passing display.
That's some NYCFC talent right there. Okay, that's
all right. Settle down, bud.
Hey, I just want to say shout out to Multi Amundsen, 2 MLS Cups in 3 years. Just want to say that because
is he the reason?
He's the reason. You got to bring him to your roster. But no, I mean, look. Apparently, and this has been talked about, it's been talked about online, so I'm not saying anything new or anything like that, but apparently that play between Amundsen and Yayaboa was specifically trained upon by Wilfred Nancy and his coaching staff, and they've scored goals like this during the season. And Multi Amundsen, I mean, like, that is a beautiful ball. Like, that is one of the best
perfectly too. Like, you put a little bit too much on that, it's going right into the goalie.
When you have a pass that can literally just break the line of about 10 defenders, I mean, there's
literally everyone on the LAFC is just all the way through them. And then I think what made it amazing is it kind of just hits Yaboa just straight on the foot.
Yeah.
Like a magnet. And it like perfect in his run. All he had to do was finish it at that point. Like, it was just too perfect of a pass.
And the thing that like had me worried in this moment, and maybe this is unfair to Yaboa, and I apologize to Mr. Yaboa, but I definitely spotted him and highlighted him as the weakest part of this starting 11 for the Columbus Crew. And I mean, look, he put his nuts into the right spot.
He put in a shift.
Yeah, he put in a great performance. He won MLS Cup, and he put away the the game winning goal. Right?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I mean, look, we've talked about all 3 goals. Is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned yet that you want to give some love to?
The one thing I did want to mention is just the atmosphere of the game, because like, I turned that game on and you're like, oh, all right, it's MLS Cup, it's Columbus, this is probably gonna be awesome. I think it outdid like everything I thought, because it was loud. I mean, you could hear them screaming through the TV. You could hear everything. And I just got to give props to that, man. Like, that was incredible. That atmosphere. How could you not be fired up? How could you not be like walking into that stadium going, oh my God, like, this is what we're up against. That is not only 11 players on the field. There's the entire crowd just behind this team, just like that gives you that extra energy. And I thoroughly believe that actually impacts a game quite a bit, especially when
100%.
It's like, as loud as that felt like it got. I mean, I wasn't there, but listening through the TV, I was like, whoa, like, this is different.
No, look, I 100% agree with you. I mean, look, we know home field advantage exists globally
Hmm.
in the game, globally in sports in general, but especially Major League Soccer. And I think that was one of the most prominent displays of home field advantage you're going to see. I think something else that kind of beefed it up and added to the crew fans really coming out to this game was in 2020 when they won MLS Cup. They only had it was like a little over 1,000
Oh,
fans
right.
at the
Yeah.
game, and they weren't allowed to do a celebration the next day. There wasn't there they because of COVID and everything going on,
Yeah,
right?
it was like
So
a double cup win, I guess.
this almost to me felt like, the people who weren't able to celebrate it there in 2020, the people who have been kind of waiting for the next opportunity to celebrate a Columbus Crew League victory, were just like, we're doing this, like we're going all out. We just beat our rivals last game. Now we're gonna beat, the quote unquote
We're
best team in the
standing the
league.
entire time,
E-
screaming.
Exactly. And I mean, like, I think it's the Nordeca, the Nordeck. I apologize. I'm very bad with supporters groups names. But they showed out. They did a great things. I'm glad that they were able to figure out whatever type of ticket fiasco was going on with them, and that they were able to pack out that stadium as well. I mean, look, I know a few people who went to the game and they said it was an incredible environment. They said the city was like, you felt the energy leading up into the game a few days before. And then I know a few people who were, around Columbus after the game as well, and they said like the city's still buzzing, like the city's still talking about it. And I mean, look, Columbus has a historically
Yeah,
great
I think it's just like put it into context of like what that club has been through a little bit, and just like
yes.
listen to like part of all of that passion is clearly coming out in these type of environments, and it just made for such an awesome viewing experience.
I think, yeah, no, I mean, look, I have nothing left to say about it. It's an incredible city. It's an incredible soccer organization, and personally, I want to touch on the organization in a little bit, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we have to give love to so many different players in the
Yeah, just
past,
like
right?
go back to the field.
We've talked Malte Amundsen, Yaya Boa, Cucho. I think one player that I want to kind of continue to give some love to is Steven Moreira. I mean, he was a dude that coming into this game with Mo Farsi getting high up the field like he did, and we talked about it in the preview last week.
Right.
He was going to have a big job on his hands containing and controlling Dennis Bouanga. And for the most part, I mean, again, outside of the one play, he controlled him, I think, to the best of many people's attempts in Major
He
League
easily
Soccer.
controlled probably some of the best we've seen this year for
Did you
large
know that
chunks at a time.
did you know that Steven Moreira and Dennis Bouanga were teammates in France? I didn't know
I
that.
did not know that, but
I don't know if that was
that
maybe
adds like a little layer to that. I don't know.
exactly. I didn't know if like maybe like during training or whatever, because Moreira also used to be a right back, right? So it's like
Mhm.
maybe like they were going up against each other in training a lot. I don't know, but maybe that adds a little bit of a layer because
Like he
I
knows your tendencies or whatever,
I,
your
I
runs.
saw them like talking shit, not talking shit, but there was a lot of talk going back and forth between them. So I don't know. I was like, I know, Moreira's French, Dennis Bouanga's from Gabon. I know there's a French connection there, and Bouanga played in France. Like I
Yeah.
know that I was like maybe like they're just familiar with each other, whatever. Um, and then I saw someone posted on Twitter during the game that they were teammates in France, and I was like, oh shit, okay. So like
Which
this
makes a
is
lot more sense.
exactly. And there was a similar thing too, which I didn't even really think about Rossi playing against LAFC. Like didn't cross my mind at all because
I mentioned that last week.
I mean
I'm
you
pretty
you
sure I
did,
mentioned
and
it.
it just went over my head. But because like the only player really left on the team that I think he played with is probably Carlos Vela. And it
Yeah.
was funny. It was a free kick moment. Carlos
Kellyn
Vela looks
Acosta was on that team.
maybe.
I feel like
I
he's
don't know.
been there for a while. Wait, he left Colorado years ago.
I don't know, bro. I'm saying one of the few players that are probably left is Carlos Vela, but it
Well, we
was
know
Carlos.
100% Vela was there.
Yes, it was Carlos Vela standing above a free kick, and I saw Vela like arguing and saying something to the ref, And like it's funny, like the way the camera was angled is all you see is Rossi kind of like half in frame, and he just has this giant grin on his face, like he knows exactly what Vela's saying to the ref right now. And it's just
He's
one
been
of
on
those.
the other side of it.
Yeah, he was like, I a few years ago I would have been pushing for this, bro. I got it. And now he was like, fuck
He's
you,
like, not
Vela.
today, man, not today.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the funny, like, former teammates or whatever international teammate connections that sometimes you just see. You have to really I think it's easy when there's only one game left in the season and you can dissect it a little bit more, but just some of those funny moments. But yeah, I just wanted to say shout out to Steven Moreira because I think he did as good of a job as we've seen anyone do in handling Dennis Bouanga this season for sure. I don't know. You have anything you want to say about Moreira or anyone else?
I was gonna bring up Schulte because to me, like I went into it in our preview thinking like he's great. He's got that experience, right? But
Young
it's
talent.
young.
Yeah.
It's a year, right, in MLS, pretty much. And so I was kind of highlighting him as someone for Columbus that how will he rise up to this and how will he perform? And I felt like he was very good. I mean, even the Bouanga goal, he gets a whole face to it, right? Like
He made the initial save.
yeah, he makes an incredible, and he almost keeps it out even on the second attempt.
Yeah.
So like all of that, and then he's down for a little bit. He comes back. He's hyping up the crowd. Like he was built for that moment. He was not shy at all. He was ready for it, and I think he put in a great performance. I mean, obviously, like we saw the ball pretty much in LAFC's half for 80% of the game or whatever it felt like.
Yeah, but he came up when he had to.
When he needed to, he made those saves. He communicated with his defense, and I think like the defense of the crew in general, and like all of them combined as a unit was just. I think when we went in, like in our position thing, we kind of said that might be the weakest link.
Yeah.
And I mean, if there is one on a championship team, that was probably it. And they honestly performed incredibly well under limited pressure, but pressure against a team that is like terrifying when they're on the counterattack in LAFC. And I think just that communication and that work ethic that they showed in winning back the ball high up the field, being there when LAFC makes a turn, right? If one guy's beat, there's another guy there. Last guy there, Schulte, and he's getting hands on things. He's getting Bouanga, who's scored 1 billion goals, like it wasn't clean. It was a second attempt off like a very tight angle. They made them work for everything, and I think just that unit and those guys in general should be super proud of how they performed.
And I think you have to give some credit to Aiden Morris and Darlington Nagbe too for really controlling.
They're like basically part of the defense and offense. They're literally like the engines.
That duo, like they're engines, but I'm also gonna kind of go with I think they're tempo setters too. Like they control. I think them and Rudy Camacho, kind of like that central three. I think is like they do a lot of just like, okay, like we're gonna make the right pass, the easy pass. We need to reset it, we'll reset it. Like they very much just control things and make sure that everyone else around them is calm, ready for what they.
I think that's key. Like they keep it calm.
Exactly.
In the midfield. They know where to go with the ball. Like they'll make that special pass from time to time, but it's not every time. It's when they know they have a shot at something very good coming out of it. And honestly, like a lot of times it works, but I think what's special about those guys is you've got your defensive mids at times, people who are staying way back at times to defend it in a larger group at the back. But Aiden Morris, Darlington Nagbe, they're not afraid to push really high up the field. They're not afraid
to know when to push.
Yeah. They know when. They're not afraid. They get into the box. They make themselves a presence. They make themselves known and have to be marked. And they have the quality to need to be marked and just drag more people out, give more space, spread it all out. And then they're always there to recover. Like it's crazy how often they're just there to recover if things don't work out. And honestly, most of the time they have seemed to work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've seen Aiden Morris develop to a level that is he wasn't even at last year. He's playing at such a high level, and we saw that display in this game. And look, this is if you're listening or watching this podcast, you definitely watch or listen to Extra Time. So I'm not trying to take this fun fact away from them, but it's mainly more, Jason, I want to share this with you because I thought that this fun fact that they said on Extra Time was kind of
I
crazy.
listen to Extra Time like every once in a while.
There's
Not enough.
there's only one player younger than Aiden Morris to have won 2 or more MLS Cups at this point of his career. Do you know who that other player is?
2 MLS Cups at the age of earlier than 22.
Yeah.
Basically. Honestly, like it could be Darlington Nagbe.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, not fair shout.
What do you have? Wait, let me. Can you give me a hint? Like, did he win it with the same team or different team?
Okay, I'm going to give you a hint, but you have to understand this hint.
I don't know.
The GOAT, bro. It's Landon Donovan.
Oh, fair enough. There was like a very like there was levels to that hint.
There was a lot there. Was it too sheepy? Was it not good enough? You know, there was the levels there. But no, yeah, Landon Donovan is the only other player to have 2 MLS Cup titles at a younger age in his career than Aiden Morris. I mean, I think that speaks highly of Aiden Morris, and I think the career in the future he has in front of him.
Well, I mean, the guy broke out on like the biggest stage, and now he's doing it again, right?
Literally. Filled in for Darlington Nagbe, and I was winning it next to Darlington Nagbe.
Darlington Nagbe wins everything. Like I've seen so many posts in different praising of Nagbe, and just like this guy is just a pure winner.
I mean, bro, if we want to talk GOATs, Darlington Nagbe's he's one of them. If we're talking strictly MLS careers. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not doing that today. I love Darlington Nagbe. He is one of the greatest midfielders that this league has ever seen. Now he is a 4-time MLS Cup champion, and he has won an MLS Cup every single club he has played for in Major League Soccer. Well, not now. He's already done that, but I mean, you get it. He's won MLS Cups, and you know you have to give him his roses because he was fantastic once again in this game. Again, outside of literally one pass, he was almost perfect in this matchup. I don't know. And I told you this. I have this really large point of the Columbus Crew that I kind of want to talk about because I feel like it's celebrating Columbus and talking a little bit higher level. But is there anything more about the game in specific, even people on LAFC side, that you want to chat about?
I was just looking up. I wanted to see who has like the most MLS Cups ever. It might be Landon Donovan.
What is it? Well, the Galaxy have 6. Donovan wasn't around for all 6. He was
there for 3, it looks like.
Yeah.
So was Todd Dunavant, left back.
Pat Onstad?
I don't see him on this list. I mean, the Galaxy having like a lot of players with 3. Like Robbie Keane has 3. De La Garza has 3.
You had that core.
Yeah. Chad Marshall has 3. 1 with the Crew and 2 with St. Louis. I mean, Seattle.
I'll let you keep looking that up if you want to look that up. I will give. I've kind of talked a little crap on a lot of LAFC players because 1, I think it's fair and just. 2, I didn't even talk shit about Carlos Vela yet. That was maybe the worst performance I've seen from Carlos Vela in an LAFC uniform. Like just lazy runs. There was opportunities where I think goal scoring opportunities could have been there if Carlos Vela just made the right run, got into the right channel, that I feel like any other forward attacker would have at that point, and he just didn't do it. So kind of a shitty way for him to potentially have played his last game for LAFC. But the one player that I really do want to give some credit to is Jesus Murillo, center back for LAFC. I know, defensively, it maybe wasn't his best game or anyone's best game at LAFC overall, but I think he did a lot to try to push this team back into the game whether it was like visibly yelling, visibly getting mad at the team and kind of trying to get them like focused, ready to go, whatever. And like I said, he's the one that created the pressure to get Dennis Bwanga's goal late in the game. Like he was literally pressing into the Columbus Crew's box to create that. So I have to give Murillo credit. He's one of the best center backs in the league, and I think he did a lot in this game to try to push LAFC at least to tie things up late or do something late in this game. Unfortunately, was just kind of short there. But that was my one LAFC player I had to give some credit to was Jesus Murillo. Because
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great performance out of LAFC. I think the Crew really game planned well for what they felt, was necessary, and it worked. And so when that happens, and you're up 2-0 within the first, 40 minutes or whatever, the first half, it's tough for like a LAFC to kind of come back from that, especially playing away in that atmosphere like we've talked about. But yeah, Vela, not great.
I mean, look, it's his
Bwanga
age.
got his goal, but like I would feel like they didn't get nearly as many touches as they probably wanted him to have, right? Like and credit to the Crew, that's really because of them. But yeah, I mean, I don't have like LAFC didn't jump off the page, right? Their midfield kind of got dominated in a way that like a lot of those guys I haven't really seen get dominated before like that. And it just felt like the Crew could do whatever they wanted, and they just took everything.
No, that's fine. And look, we don't have to talk that much LAFC. They lost. They're losers.
I will say, though, about LAFC is like you said before on the last pod, like if they lose this, what do we think of them as a team? That's their third final, I think, that they've lost this year. Fourth final they've lost.
Campeones Cup, CCL, MLS Cup, 3 finals. Apologies.
Yeah, because they didn't make it to Leagues Cup or whatever.
Cup, yeah. Or Open Cup, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I said no. I still kind of think no because I think this club and this team are still kind of at the top. Not necessarily in terms of best team, but within that, tier 1 of 100%. MLS team. I don't think they're going anywhere. I'm pretty sure they don't have Champions League next year, so that could be interesting.
Yeah, no. So Champions League draw just happened. We're not going to talk about it, but LAFC are not in Champions League. So maybe that kind of frees up some legs because to the point that I said before, I think them playing the most games in a single calendar year for any MLS team ever is an accomplishment in its own right that they pushed themselves over the last 2 years to qualify and be there for every single tournament and every single competition and go deep into these competitions and everything there, So they are still tier 1 team in Major League Soccer. They are still.
They're going to come back stronger, I think. I mean,
and
they're
they
going
have
to make changes.
two open DP spots.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's reports and rumors.
Assuming Vela leaves.
Well, Vela's gone. He's out of contract. So, I mean,
they could bring him back theoretically.
They could.
I don't think that would be a smart move, but
at this point, I think if I'm an LAFC fan, I'm hoping that was the last time I see Carlos Vela play a game. Club legend. He's the dude. I get it, all that stuff. But, I think that's it. There's reports Dennis Bwanga might be heading back to Europe. That would be a huge blow. Giorgio Chiellini just retired. So there is a lot of money off the books. There is a lot of free agents for this team. Kellen Acosta, Maxime Crepeau, Diego Palacios, Carlos Vela, Daniel Maldonado. That's probably the larger names that I can list off. John McCarthy. That's there's a lot of holes to fill. There's a lot of guys that need to be re-signed if you're serious about bringing back this core. But I think John Thorrington, Steve Trundolo, LAFC, they'll be back there.
I mean, they're not looking to like do a rebuild type season. Like they're gonna fill in their holes, whatever they are that they need. They're going to come back, and it's probably going to be a season for them that's like, I mean, I don't know if it will be down or great again. Like, we'll see what happens over the offseason. But like we've been saying all along, this is a club that has like pretty lofty aspirations, and
Yeah.
just making 3 finals, regardless of winning or losing in a calendar year, is impressive. And I feel like when they lose 3 in a calendar year, all the talk is like, "Oh, you guys lost all 3." Well, you know what? Who didn't make even lose 3? Most teams in MLS,
Yeah,
right? So
literally.
losing 3 finals is better than not making any, right? For what, 95% of the teams.
I think it's the difference between reputation and legacy. I think LAFC this season was another kind of stamp in their reputation of being uh, arguably the best club right now operating in Major League Soccer.
I would
Um,
say they're even in that place where it's like almost arguably in CONCACAF.
100%, sure, and that's completely fair. I'm just saying, I think the difference between reputation and legacy is winning those finals,
Right.
reputations being in the finals. Reputations being consistently good and great and whatever you want to say. Legacy is you put your stamp on the game and you're raising the trophy at the end of the day, like the Columbus Crew have done. And are continuing to do, and I won't be
Right.
surprised if we see that continue into the future as well.
Hey, as long as
Um,
Nancy's there, like I'm not doubting them. I'm not doubting this team. After what we saw after that run, that back half of the season, and then into the MLS Cup playoffs, and then into MLS Cup, like they're the team to beat now for obvious reasons. But they're also just like what we saw is that this is a team that is not going to be afraid, and they're going to do exactly what they want to do. They know their place. They know kind of like what is expected of them from the top to the bottom, right? From
yeah,
manager, players, front office. There'll be changes as there always are, right? And there's already been some, right, released. But I have full confidence that that organization is going to find the right pieces to fit what they want to do once again and be another force.
look, to me, as long as Tim Bezbachenko's in that front office spot, I have faith and confidence that the Columbus Crew will be okay. Um, you know, and this is the larger point about the Columbus Crew that I think I want to kind of get into our conversation about this now, of kind of where they are in the grand scheme, the larger scale of Major League Soccer, because this is a process that I'm going to say and believe even started prior to this season, even prior to Wilfred Nancy being manager of the team. I think back in 2022, last season, when MLS Next Pro was a thing and began its first year of professional soccer at that ranks, you saw the push for Columbus to develop and put together a strong MLS Next Pro 2 team that won the inaugural title, who in net had Patrick Schulte, who had Sean Zawatsky and Mo Farsi and Jason Russell Rowe, and all of these youngsters that played impactful, either some of them starting roles for this now MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew team. And I think then it was, okay, Caleb Porter isn't the guy. We missed the playoffs. Who can we get that fits our mold, what we're aiming for, how we're aiming to grow and play? And, just also be real, who works with youngsters really well? Wilfred Nancy. And I think right now, CF Montreal are probably kicking themselves in the
Right.
ass because they did a very rarely seen coach trade in U.S. sports in general, but especially Major League Soccer. And he gave the confidence to a Schulte, Mo Farsi, a Sean Zawatsky, even an Alexandru Matan, who was out on loan in Europe last year. And fans were probably writing him off, and I was writing him off. I got Matan was just a failure of a U22 initiative signing. He got these youngsters, you have to give them confidence through the mistakes, because youngsters are going to make mistakes. And he did that. And, there's many aspects of the Columbus Crew, but I think the trust in the youth and kind of pushing the youth through Wilfred Nancy and the Crew 2 side, I mean, I have to tip my cap to it because I think it's special. I don't know if you have any points you want to say about the youth side of things or
I
whatever,
think I
but
want to highlight just like with the Crew. I mean, it kind of goes in with everything you were saying. Is just this is a club that, I mean, there's a lot of clubs in MLS in sports in general that are just we'll give it another year, right? This is not a club that's like let's just see how it plays out next year, right? This is a club that identifies their shortcomings or mistakes and moves on from them very quickly and efficiently, right? It's not a team that's, oh, this player didn't necessarily work out this year, but, maybe it was this reason or something. It's like, no, this is why we're identifying that this has been a problem point for us. How can we improve this? Then they go out there, they do their research. They clearly are doing so much back end work on just figuring
100%.
out what works with what they want to do, what fits into their system, manager, player, even front office members. I mean, it probably goes all the way through that organization. Is just what do we want to do to move ourselves forward? It's not like, oh, okay, now like, oh, Wilfred Nancy, oh, but he's coaching there. We can't get him. It's no, how do we get him, right?
Exactly.
And then they figured it out, and then they got him. There are so many teams who were just like, oh, he's there, he's in Montreal. We can't have him. We got to wait. Let's look elsewhere.
Exactly.
They identify these issues and then find their solutions, and then they find a way to get those solutions, right? And then it pays off, obviously, on the field. You win trophies. Even with Caleb Porter, I mean, that's a guy who won a trophy with this team.
Literally, yeah.
And when it stopped working, they said, what's not working anymore? And they moved on, and they won another MLS Cup. And that's what, what'd you say, 2 and 3 years? 2 and 4 years?
2 and 4 years.
2 and 4 years. That's a testament to how, I mean, with 2 different managers with almost completely different teams in some cases.
2 different logos, too. 2 different logos.
They've now won a MLS Cup with every logo, I think.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, I think to the point of what you're saying is they have their plan. And again, Tim Bezbachenko, when you saw it when he created some of the best teams in MLS history up in Toronto with, Giovinco and Josie and Victor Vasquez and that core, he's doing the same thing here. He has his plan. He's unbelievable as a front office member, and I think he's creating that within the Crew organization. And to your point, it's like, it's even when they have good things, it's where can we improve, because where can we best fit into the plan? You have Lucas Zelarayan, where can we improve? Okay, we're going to get Diego Rossi, who's a better fit for Wilfred Nancy's system and tactics.
And with Zelarayan, though, like, they don't wait, right? They got a good offer for Zelarayan, and they weren't like, well, if we do this now, does it derail the whole season?
Yeah,
no.
Can we win now?
If we do this now, we get an incredible deal that's potentially at the highest they might ever have gotten for him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's speculation, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a great deal. They got a ton of money for him, and then they were like, how do we replace him where we can still be successful? They figured that out. They brought in Rossi. It was like seamless.
Yeah, I mean,
so they're like, do we have the guys here? Cucho's been there, man. Like, and he just it was incredible. Like,
literally,
they knew if we get rid of Zelarayan, like, how do we fix this? And I bet you someone in there was like, well, Cucho's probably gonna thrive in a larger role. Plus, you get complementary players, and it succeeds. And that's kind of what happened. And I'm sure that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, I 100% agree with you. And I think it's also right, like, okay, we went out and we got Steven Moreira, and now he's going to play right center back instead of right back because it fits how we want to play this better. Malte Amundsen was a left back with NYCFC barely playing. Okay, now we're going to make him a left center back because now we can trust him to have the ball at his feet and hit those right passes like we saw in the MLS Cup. Rudy Camacho.
Well, when you have 3 center backs, it takes a little bit less pressure to succeed, and then you have guys that are just flying up and down the wings and their wing backs. And I think they have identified players, whether they're on the outsides of their teams looking in and then bringing them in and like you're saying, switching their roles slightly to make them really thrive.
I mean, if you want to look at this season, like every player we've named, then you can say Rudy Camacho, they brought in Christian Ramirez, Trebeko, the Ukrainian center back they brought in for depth. I mean, like they've done so much to bring in Julian Gressel. They've done so much to bring in guys who are adjustable to their system, who are key depth pieces, who are maybe overlooked pieces at other clubs as well. And then on top of that, you have your stars, you have your Cuchos, your Darlington Nagbys, your Aiden Morrises. You have all of that kind of built with multiple game winners alongside of that. So look, this has been a very long rant from me, but I think all of the points that I said and to everything you said as well, from Tim Bezbachenko to Wilfred Nance to Darlington Nagbe, even to the youngsters of Patrick Schulte, I think the Columbus Crew are operating at one of the highest levels, if not the highest level within Major League Soccer. And, I think if I'm going to look at the state of the league right now, and I'm talking tier 1 teams that push outside of the US or even outside of CONCACAF into a global scale, I think you have to put the Columbus Crew in there with LAFC, Seattle, and Philly right now. I think those are the 4 teams that are just doing soccer in the US the best. Like just period. There's no, I think smart way to say it. They're just doing it the best. And I have to give all of those teams the credit, but specifically here today, the Columbus Crew, I have to give them their credit.
I think what really kind of illustrates that point that you're kind of making with the Crew is like Gressel and Ramirez are 2 players that I personally think would be starting on a lot of teams. I don't know what percentage of teams it would be, probably 60, 70%. I don't know.
Okay.
But they're going to the Crew in taking slightly different roles than they would be used to. When in sometimes, I don't know how to say it, but if Julian Gressel was on the Fire, for instance, he's starting.
Yeah.
And he's one of the better players, right? But him on the Crew, him taking that kind of side role where it's like, what can you do in these limited minutes? What can you do to help the team succeed? And I think that's a testament to the Crew as well as Wilfred Nance and getting people to buy in to the system, whether that's a larger role or a smaller role. I think he's able to kind of give that belief in his players that's like, no, either this role isn't too big for you or no, this role isn't too small for you. You can still drastically impact games. I mean, without Ramirez, are they even in MLS Cup? And this is a guy who comes off the bench, right, in the 60th, 70th minute. So I think just in terms of, your point is they bring in all these players, they kind of move things around, they're operating at such a high level, but they're also getting buy-in from players to do things that they might have a bigger role on a worse team elsewhere, or they might be able to make more money. I don't know about the money thing, but they might be able to make more money elsewhere in a bigger role.
I think they elevate the floor of players who maybe are overlooked by other clubs. For example, a Malte Amundsen or even a Yaya Boa. I think they develop talent really well. For example, a Patrick Schulte or an Aiden Morris. And then I think to
they hit all the check marks. It's
Yeah.
like 3
exactly.
boom, boom, boom. You're good.
To your point, like a Christian Ramirez or I don't know. Yeah. This is tough.
You just go with Ramirez.
Christian Ramirez or like a Sean, even a Sean Zawatsky, right? Like I know they groomed him up or whatever, but those are players that are starting week in and week out on any other roster, but they've got them to buy into their late sub role, bench piece role, depth role, whatever it may be at this point of their career, So I have to give everyone credit. I don't know. I
mean, they have Kevin Molino at 33 years old coming on in the 90th minute and helping see out the game in like the last minutes or whatever in the, what was it, +8 or whatever.
And no offense to Kevin Molino, but when was the last time in the last 3 years we've seen a solid performance out of him? You know what I'm saying?
Or like a game changing, but but he comes on and it's not like, oh no, it's like, okay, yeah, they're just going to see out this game and he's going to do his thing and he's going to probably maybe cause some problems, but he's not going to be this drastic game changing sub. Yeah. But it there's a role for him there. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to say, or you're trying to say, or I'm trying to say, is that the Crew have roles for these players, be it number 1 on the sheet or number 18.
Yeah. And look, I think, there's obviously going to be attention and probably interest, for Cucho Hernandez, who at this point is a star in a league, and he's playing his way into being a national team starting striker. I'm sure there's even going to be some interest from Wilfried Nancy overseas. I mean, he's French, that he knows people and clubs and places in Europe that are probably interested in him at this point. He's a young manager that's won trophies as a manager, and he's gotten the best out of players, and he's even pushed players to different levels, and he's put players into Europe, So I think there's potential change coming for Columbus, but I still just have that faith.
Well, I think to your point with Bezbatchenko is when you have a team that succeeds and is great and is this good, of course there's going to be, bigger sharks in the water coming, but they have a system in place and a front office in place that it's whoever leaves, whatever happens, it's not okay. Like the sky is falling. It's okay, maybe there's going to be some feeling out time, but they're probably going to be back to where they're at sooner rather than later.
100%. And that's why, the Columbus Crew are 2023 MLS Cup champions. I'll leave it at that because I'm repeating myself. I have to give love to the club because I think they're doing great shit. I guess, Jason, before we wrap it up, anything else you want to say before we close the book on?
That was just an incredible final. I'm glad, that's another season. I think the predictions were fun this year. Obviously, winning them felt great.
Look, if we want to count the play-in games, bro.
Oh yeah, the ones that they don't count.
Same record, 12-5 each if we count the play-in games.
I'll give you it. I like how you put it in parentheses on the.
I'm just saying.
Back, you really needed that.
I needed it. Okay, I was
even if we count the fake play-in games, then we still tied. So sure. I feel like we both did pretty good, though. I mean,
no. Look. I'll take 10-5. I'll take that. I got bad down the stretch with my picks. That was
the last 5 games are not great for you.
Not great at all. I mean, look, Cincy Philly, Ian Murphy was offside. Fuck him. I mean, look, let's keep it.
I mean, if you're gonna argue that one, it's okay. So then I would also get that one.
Whatever.
So it would not help you at all.
All right. Well, I would just want to close the door, I guess, on our 2023 season by saying thank you to everyone who's watched or listened this season. We're going to be back next week. We're going to keep pumping out episodes as much as we can. The MLS Aces Instagram is back up. That's literally something I did about 20 minutes ago because I was like, you know what? I probably should. But MLS Aces is still on Goals TV, still on YouTube. We're on TikTok. Everywhere that you feel like you can watch or listen to our content, we're out there. I'm trying to churn out blogs as much as I can on MLSAces.com with all of the signings and announcements and everything like that. So outside of this podcast, if you prefer to read stuff, if you prefer that, it's going to be on our website, MLSAces.com. I don't know, maybe some more fun will get announced or some more exciting news will get announced as well around us. We'll figure that out as it comes. But if not, I just want to say thank you. It's been another good season, and hopefully 2024 is even better, Jason.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this off season we'll be able to do some fun stuff, and then we'll get back into it. I mean, it's not long before we're going to be talking about games again. So.
Before we're talking opening day and making our predictions and all that shit.
When we do, those are great. I'm going to have to start preparing for those now. They're going to have 85,000 teams each year.
CONCACAF Champions Cup starts February 6th.
Just 2 of us this year, too, to preview, 34 teams or whatever it is?
We got it. Maybe we bring in some special guests to help us preview some stuff so we don't have to talk about so much. But yeah, I mean, look, games start in literally less than 2 months. So we're back into it, off season, baby. Let's
go. That's crazy.
Let's go. Well, look, congratulations to Columbus, Jason. Thank you for this entire season. Anyone who's listened, watched, followed along, thank you. And 2024, well, we're going to be back next week, but 2024 MLS season, here we come.
Peace.